Alrighty, hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new scripting video. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of my favourite aspects of Roblox coding, conditional statements. Alright, so what are conditional statements, what are they good for, and why should we use them? Okay, so a conditional statement is basically a statement that checks if a certain value is a certain way. So, let's say if this, then do that. That's kind of how it is. It's basically checking if something is happening inside of your game world, if something is about to happen, if a value is true, if an object exists, like if part then part colon destroy, or if player then table dot insert. If part then table dot insert player comma table, things like that. And so yeah, that's what we're delving into today. So here I have a little example script written up for you guys. So first I'm just going to explain what I've written here. So this is a variable. If you've watched my variables video, you'll know what this is. I'll flash a card to that up in the top right corner now. This is a function, and if you haven't seen my functions video, I'll flash a card to that up in the top right corner again. And this is my conditional statement. As you can see, I have the syntax of if, and I'm checking if my variable value, my boolean value, is equal to true. And then if that's true, it will do this. That's the name of my function, do this, and it's just passing the parameter. If you've seen my parameters video, again, I'll probably flash a card to that up in the top right corner as well. Go watch all those and this will make so much more sense. But yeah, so if boolean is equal to true, which it is, okay, what it's going to do is in the output is it's going to print this message that I've passed through as an argument into the function's parameter. And then inside this function, we're printing it. All right. And as we can see down here in my output, it has printed the string that I have set as an argument. All right. So what's happened is the script's read the boolean value is true. So it knows that. It's defined a function. It's just remembering this at the moment. It's not doing anything with it. And then we've written down the syntax for a condition. The boolean value is in fact equal to true. So it's going to fire this function and it's going to pass the argument of the value is true over to the parameter of the function, and it's going to print the message that is the parameter. Okay, so let's move on to another example of how this could be used. So let's say when a player joins the game, we want to loop through them and we want to add them into a table. So if you've seen my tables video, I recommend checking my entire scripting series out, just so this makes sense. You will need some prior scripting knowledge to fully understand what I'm about to write here. But yeah, first I'm going to start off with a player service variable. So I'm going to go local players is equal to game colon get service players. And then I'm going to just open a blank table. So local players table is equal to, you don't have to copy this down, it's just another example of how we can use these practically, is equal to squiggly brackets to define a table, and we're going to drop a line and we're going to do players dot player added colon connect function player. We're going to drop a line. Okay, so this is where our conditional statement comes in. If you've watched my prior videos, you will have seen me do this before. Okay, I've sort of glossed over the if statements and the if else. Else is basically if the first if is equal to false, then it's going to default to the next option by default. It's going to realize, okay, this isn't true, so the other thing must be true. Okay, so the syntax is obviously if, all right. And in this case, we're checking if the player still exists. So like if the player hasn't like left the game already, or something's happened to their character, or not their character, their instance in the player's service, because contrary to popular belief, the player's instance actually goes into the player's and not the workspace. The player's character goes into the workspace, but the player's instance goes into the player's service. So we're down here and we are checking if the player still exists. So all we have to do is player, because we've defined that as a variable, as a parameter in our function. And we're just doing then we can do table.insert, and we'll get our players table, comma, player, what we're inserting into the table. Just going to print the contents of the players table. So I'm just going to go players table, and I'm just going to go 1, and we can click play. And as you can see, what's happened down here in my output is that it's printed the string value of my username, which is obviously jacksmith_1000, because it's gone to what's happened is the players have been defined as a variable. I've set a table for the player to go inside of. Players, which is the player service, so it's basically game.players, players.playerAdded, :connect, a function, functions video, parameters video. If, we're checking if the player is there, all right, and then we can do table.insert players, player. So if it inserted the player into the table, if you've watched my tables video, you'll understand that as well. And then we've just printed the player's table at position 1. So we've printed the first item that it finds at position 1, and so at position 1, okay? So that's how that works. An if statement, you'll find, if you're looking over a coder's code, you'll probably find a statement that looks a little bit like this, else. So else is basically a default to the next best option. Okay, so that means if this first conditional proves to be negative, right, then what's happening is it's going to go, okay, well, if I can't do this, I have to be able to do this, because this is the only other option that I've got. So let's say if up here we can do if not player, then we can do table.remove. Actually, no, I'm not going to do table.remove. We'll still insert them into the table. Actually, we'll remove the table.insert. Print the player's table. We will just print. We will print nil in quotations, because there's nothing inside of the table that we've defined. And then else, if not player. Okay, so that means if there's no player, so the only other thing that there could possibly be as an option is that there is a player. So we can do else, we can do table dot insert players table, comma, player. Players table 1. Okay, so what's happening here is obviously it's found that if there's not a player, then it's going to print nil, but of course when I join the game there is going to be a player, so it's going to go table.insert, player, and it's going to print the first item. So it's basically the same thing, but I'm explaining how the else statement works as well. So if I go ahead and click play, again, because it has found the player under the else statement, it has printed because the only other thing that can possibly happen inside of this script is that the player is present. So it's added them into the table and it's printed their name at position 1. If I take away the not statement, it will print nil. As you can see, it printed nil because that's the first thing that it found, and it does not need to default to else. Okay, so the else is else if all else fails. Okay, remember it like that. If the first statement fails, then it will go to else if fails. Else if is basically a second if statement inside of one tab. Okay, so there's else if, and if. Okay, those are the main ones you need to remember. Anyways guys, that's probably going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It really helps out the channel. We just passed 100 subscribers. I'm really happy with that. And yeah, other than that, thank you guys so very much for watching. See you next time.